Right, number 1, find all the intercepts of the graph y equals 3x plus 7 over 4 minus x. Right, so first of all, let's go ahead and find the y-intercepts. And remember, to find the y-intercepts, we'll just let the x be 0. So put a 0 wherever the x is. And then when I do that, I get 7/4. So my y-intercept is going to be 0, 7/4. And then to get the x-intercept, remember we're going to set the y equal to 0. So put 0 equals 3x plus 7 over 4 minus x. And then if you recall previously, I crossed out the denominator because if the denominator ever equaled 0, it would be undefined. So we really only care about the numerator for the x-intercept. So if I just set 3x plus 7 equal to 0, I'll get x is equal to negative 7/3. So my other intercept is going to be negative 7/3, 0. I find all points of intersection of the graphs x squared plus y equals 2 and 2x minus y equals 1. All right, what we want to do is go ahead and solve one of the equations for y. So I'm going to go ahead and solve this one for y. Doesn't really matter which one. If I do that, if I subtract x squared from both sides, I'm going to get y equals 2 minus x squared. And then we'll go ahead and plug this in for the y in the second equation. So I'm going to get 2x minus the quantity 2 minus x squared is equal to 1, right? And then we're going to distribute the negative to both parts. So we'll get 2x minus 2. Can you guys please sit by each other and talk a little quieter? Pretty please. Plus x squared is equal to 1. And then since there is more than one x in this problem, I would like to set it equal to 0 so I can solve. Okay, so when I do that, I'm actually going to be putting it in order also. The x squared would come first, and then the plus 2x, this would be minus 3, is equal to 0. And then from here, I notice that this will factor into x plus 3, x minus 1. And using the zeros product property, I know that x will equal negative 3, or x will equal 1. And I'm not quite done because I needed to find the points of intersection, which means I actually have to find the y values for each one. So when x equals negative 3, I'm going to go back into this one where it's already solved for y. So I'm going to have y equals 2 minus negative 3 squared. And that will equal negative 3 squared is 9. 2 minus 9 is negative 7. And then when x equals 1, we'll get y equals 2 minus 1 squared, and 1 squared is 1, 2 minus 1 is 1. So my 2 points of intersection are going to be negative 3, negative 7, and 1, 1. F of x equals 4x plus 2 when x is less than negative 1, x squared minus 3 when x is between negative 1 and 1, and negative 3x plus 6 when x is greater than or equal to 1. All right, when we graph this, I like to go ahead and do my 3 sections. So 4x plus 2 is a section, x squared minus 3 is a section, and negative 3x plus 6 is a section. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do an xy table for the first section, and this would be numbers less than negative 1, so I'll start with negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. I think that should be enough. And I'm going to go ahead and evaluate these ones. So if I plug in negative 1, 4 times negative 1 is negative 4, plus 2 is negative 2. And if I plug in negative 2, 4 times negative 2 is negative 8, plus 2 is negative 6. And if I plug in negative 3, 4 times negative 3 is negative 12, plus 2 is negative 10. All right, and I do know in this section, since that x is less than negative 1, there's no equal sign, that there will be an open circle here. All right, and then I'll go to my next section. So I've got my xy. This one is between negative 1 and 1, so negative 1, 1. I think I'll just put 0 in between. And then if I plug in negative 1 squared is 1, 1 minus 3 is negative 2. If I plug 0 in, 0 squared is 0, minus 3 is negative 3. If I plug 1 in, 1 squared is 1, minus 3 is negative 2. And I do know that this is going to be the shape of a parabola because it's a squared graph. Now I'm going to go ahead and look at my endpoints. There's an equal sign on this one, so I know that that's going to be a closed-in circle. And at 1, there's no equal sign, so this is going to be an open circle when I graph it. And then my third section, do my xy table. This one is starting at 1, so I'll just do 1, 2, 3. I know this graph is going to be a line because of the characteristic of it. Plug in 1, negative 3 times 1 is negative 3 plus 6 is 3. Plug in 2, negative 3 times 2 is negative 6 plus 6 is 0. And 3, negative 3 times 3 is negative 9 plus 6 is negative 3. So that should be all set. This one is x is greater than or equal to 1, so at 1 there will be a closed circle. So I am now ready to graph, and I'm going to go ahead and put my coordinate axis. I'm going to make this as straight as I possibly can using this pen. And then I'm going to put, I don't need to go up very far on my, so I'm going to go right here actually. Well, do my best there. Okay, negative 1, negative 2, and that's going to be an open circle. Negative 2, negative 6, and then negative 3, negative 10. And I know that that's going to be a line because it's 4x plus 2. And so now when I do this, well, hopefully you've got a nice straight line. Oh, I didn't do so bad. And then that will keep going, so I will put an arrow. And that should have been a little bit straighter right there. Okay, and then my next one, negative 1, negative 2. Oh, and actually this is going to get closed in now. Yay. All right, 0, negative 3. And then 1, negative 2, which is going to be right there. And then, so we're just going to go ahead and make it kind of look like a parabola there. Whoop, and this one is going to have to be open again. So let's go ahead and make that an open circle. And then my last one, 1, 3, is going to be a closed circle. 2, 0, and 3, negative 3. Okay, so that one will go like this, and just, whoops, should have gone through there, sorry. Keeps going. This one was an open circle, closed circle. This one ended up being a closed-in circle, so it should look something like that when we do it. Number 4, determine the slope and y-intercept of the line given by the equation 3x minus 7y equals 11, and then sketch a graph of the line. So there are three things, slope, intercept, sketch a graph. Okay, so the first of all, to get the slope, we can, if we would like to, use our shortcut on this one. The slope is just going to be negative a over b, so it's going to actually end up being 3/7. The problem we're going to run into in this one, when we want to find that y-intercept, we're still going to have to solve it for y. So, although that was a nice thing to do, we'd still have to kind of go do some work. So I'm going to solve this for y, so I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. I've got negative 7y equals negative 3x plus 11. And then we'll divide all three parts by negative 7. So we'll get y equals positive 3/7 x minus 11/7. So my y-intercept is going to end up being negative 11/7. Okay, and then the third thing I needed to do was sketch a graph of the line. Alrighty, and so let's see. Negative 11/7 is negative 1 point something, so we're going to go down to negative 1 point something. Whoop. And then if I have a slope of 3/7, that means we get to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and then over 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's going to go somewhere there. I'm going to try my best to draw a straight line on this thing. I have a little difficulty doing that, so we'll just pretend like that was a straight line when I did that. Problem 5. If the point negative 1, 5 lies in the graph of the equation y equals x to the 4th minus x squared plus 2, find the value of k. If you recall, if the point lies on the graph, if I were to plug it into the equation, I will, both sides will equal each other. So for the y, we'll put 5, and for each of the x's, we will put negative 1, and then we'll just solve for k. So I get 5 equals negative 1 to the 4th power is going to be 1, and then minus negative 1 squared is 1 times k is k, and then plus 2. And then I'll get 5 equals, if I combine the 1 and the 2, I'll get 3. And then I'll subtract 3 from both sides, which will give me 2 equals negative k, which means k is equal to negative 2.